Hi, I'm Mark Smith with Macroscopic Solutions. Today what we're going to be doing is taking our preferred configuration of the Macropod MacroBox system and demonstrating how to use it. So I've already placed a sample. I have my flashes mounted. I have everything connected. I have my stack shot turned on. At the moment I don't yet have my camera turned on, my settings selected, or any of my parameters figured out. So I know where I mounted the camera at the moment that I'm about 25 centimeters above where my samples are. So that's actually going to be the table line that I refer to as we go through the demonstration of how to operate this system. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead, we're going to take the cover off the box. Okay. Lift up, we're going to move this off to the side. And what we can do is position our system. So we want our y-axis to start in the upper left-hand corner. Z-axis, again, we want to be in the upper left-hand corner, so we're going to bring our sample all the way down to the bottom. So our field of view is going to be focusing on the upper left-hand side as of this moment. So what we can do now, we're going to go ahead, we're going to turn our camera on, and we're going to leave it in automatic mode for now. When you power your camera on, that will connect up to the cable, and automatically on your computer it's going to open your camera's live shoot. If it doesn't, you can go ahead and open EOS Utility on its own, but you can see here mine opened automatically. In the background I also have a crude example of the spreadsheet that you're going to be referring to for your camera's settings in order to use this slider, in order to program it. So remember, just pay attention to that video that we just shared with you. If those principles are fresh in your mind, it's good to move forward and operate the system now so that everybody has a pretty good idea about how to program. Okay, so at the moment, camera's open and automatic. We're going to open up our live view shoot. I already have a folder that's been created. I created this in a external hard drive, so it's called African Lepidoptera. So that's where my images are going to be stored. If you want, we can navigate to that directory now. We've got our video tutorials, African Lepidoptera. And when I take an image here, so what I'll do is I'll snap a random picture. You'll see it's going to create its own new folder according to today's date. So today's April 2nd, 2024. Because that was a test image, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to delete that. Now remember, this camera is an automatic focus lens, but it's used in manual focus. So you want to make sure that the lens is set to manual focus. You want to make sure that the servos are all turned off. And what you could do in live view right now is just adjust the focal ring until you begin to resolve a portion of the image. It looks like the focal plane just went right through where we need to be. So right there, you can see we've got a pretty good idea of where we want to be. Now remember, I said I also want to focus on our field of view being around, or at least tied to the 25 centimeter mark. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the measuring rule, which is included, and we are just going to measure out where we are. And right now we're closer to about 28, so the camera needs to come down a little bit. So I'm just going to drive the x-axis down about 2 to 3 centimeters. Right there, that's going to be at our 25 centimeter mark. Yep, almost perfectly. The other thing I just want to point out as we're setting everything up is that the carriage that mounts the trays, if you have a big tray like this one, it's actually designed to slide out. So here, what we could do, if you needed more clearance, you can actually unthread the screws here, and you can extend this this out a bit in order to make it a bit larger, or you can close it off. But right now, it actually does seem like it's pretty good, so we're going to leave it. Just making sure that it's nice and snug, which it is. Okay, so now, once we have our camera sort of pinpointed, you can see that we're a little bit off and extended past the box. So I'm going to press the y-axis, to bring us a little closer to the starting point. Z-axis, we're going to bring the box up to bring us again a little closer to our starting point. And now what we're going to do is use the X-axis button to bring us down to the very bottom of the box where the foam is. Right there. And these are basically going to be all of our starting points. So right off the gate, you can see none of my axes are actually configured at the moment. What I'll do is I'll take a picture of the screen. The system is going to ship in this mode. It's basically an XYZ panoramic stacking mode. So it's going to be already set to this screen, but I will show everybody how to get to this screen if needed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click on that X. You can see that there's a select start and end position. What I'm going to do is select start. Then I'm going to go back home. I'm going to select on the Y. I'm going to select start. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to select on the Z, and I'm going to select start. Now what we want to do is now focus on the right side of the box in the lower left-hand corner. So we're going to now click on the Z-axis, and we're going to bring the box up until we're focused on the bottom left edge. And again, this is also where you can check that your cables have enough clearance. Test that bottom left, that's going to be our end. Go back home, now we're going to go to our Y. We're going to pan all the way over to the right because we're going to be going from left to right. That'll be our end. And now what I'm going to do is go right back home, go to our X-axis, and we're going to press the down arrow, and we're going to raise the camera so that the focal plane is at the very top of all these pins that you see. Here there's actually a box. This box is actually above the height of all of our butterflies, so we're going to focus right up at the top there. Actually, I just snapped the picture while I said what I was doing. Sorry, I'm going to hit select end. So now that's all of our axes completely set up. If you want, without actually doing this, just to make sure that these were set up correctly, you could do a preview. So the preview is actually going to basically, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Y-axis right now. From the Y-axis, I can click that preview button, and if you watch what happens, it's going to move back to the starting point that it's programmed. So it's just confirming your starting and end points. You're also confirming your cables are out of the way. So we know that's the start, we know that's the end. So what it's going to do is it's going to take a picture at the starting point, the end point, and I can't remember correctly, but I think it should go right back to the starting point after this is done. Yep. So see, so that's all done. You can do the same thing with every axis just to make sure that you're set up correctly. Now, the next important part is to just make sure that your overlap, according to that video that we described before, is adequate. So this is where we're going to refer to our table. We know that we're 25 centimeters away from the sample. So I've got my table back here. I'll just kind of minimize it and push it off to the left so we can look at it simultaneously. And then we'll turn on our controller. So, at 25 centimeters, that's this column here with the RF100, we can now pan over to where our slider settings are going to be. And this table will be cleaned up a little bit. Right now, of course, it's just pretty simple, pretty generic, but I'll make it nicer in time. But here we go. We want to focus on our numerical values. For the sake of time, I want to actually make a very fast capture. So we're going to be using an F11 value. So for our X-axis, we're going to go right back here to our home screen. We're going to click on X. And right here at the top, where it says distance, it has our pre-programmed distance already in there. You're just going to click that X, and you're just going to enter that value. So we're going to be using an aperture of F11. Now I recommend that everybody using this system uses an aperture of F8. It's a perfect balance between time saving and also image quality. F11 is just going to speed it up a little bit for me. So you're also welcome to do that. You're welcome to use any of these aperture settings. So I'm just going to enter that value, the 8.2 millimeters there. Now we're going to go back home. Now we need to set up our y-axis. These are not tied to aperture, these are tied to field of view. So this is that distance away from the sample that we're referring to. So here's our y value. We set this to 5.07 millimeters. And for our z-axis, we will set that to 3.306 millimeters. So that is now everything set up except for our camera settings. So now what you want to do is navigate back to the camera, place the dial back into manual mode. We want to power on our flashes. So I'm going to power on the transmitter, I'm going to power on the flash heads. At the moment, everything is set to a power of 1/8. You just make sure that that's tied up with the transmitter. We're on channel 21. So 1/8 might be a little bright. I recommend 1/16. We might have to go back to 1/8 because we are using an aperture of f11, but I'd like to compensate that with ISO. Again, so those settings are going to be already predetermined for you in this table. So at this time, you'll navigate over to the left, find the 25 centimeters. Our shutter settings are here. We're going to close our remote live view window. And on our EOS remote, we're going to select the shutter speed, which is 1/100. We don't need to change that. Aperture is f11. We don't need to change that. ISO right now, I have it set to 2000. Up here I have it at 800, but I know that I have my flash setting around 116. So we'll just see. We'll see what 2000 is. What we can do now is actually take a couple of test images. So open up a quick preview. Quick preview is under other functions. Quick preview, we're going to take a test picture. Actually, that brightness looks fantastic. So I'm also just going to modify that here in the table. I don't think I adjusted the ISO levels. So I'll make sure that these ISO levels are accurate. However, basically these are starting point parameters. I just want to clarify that. So at any point, if the image is too dark or too bright, the only thing that you're going to modify on these settings is either raise the ISO for a brighter image, or you're going to take the flash down to a maximum power of 1/8. I recommend staying at 116. If it's too bright, you need to go the other direction. So 132 means half that power, 1/64 is half that power. Or if you need to make the image darker, you'll start to make the ISO number slightly lower. So the lower the ISO, the darker the image, and so forth. And the fraction on the flash denotes it's basically a percentage of power. So if it's 1/1, that's full power. If it's 1/2, that's half power. So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. So now we can close our table because all of our settings are defined. We can now navigate over to the folder where we've been storing our test images, and we are now ready to take some pictures. So again, everything's set up on the axes. All I now need to do is press head home. And from home, I need to press start, and you're going to see the whole system come to life. Just remember your cables are out of the way. You'll see the camera go back to its starting point. Z-axis is at its starting point. Y-axis is at its starting point. And if you look up here at the controller screen, it's going to tell you exactly how long this process is going to be. So here, we're going to be taking a total of 378 images. It's going to take a total of 41 minutes to scan this box at this particular magnification. This magnification is pretty good, so I don't really see any problems with the images as we come out. You can see here our image data is starting to be stored directly into this folder. We will let this process, and in the end, we will show you how to post-process all of this data. So also stay tuned for a demonstrated video on how the other configuration is going to work. Again, I don't recommend that configuration, but it's there for you if you need it. So let's move forward with this. We'll just let the camera record this a little bit so you can kind of get a time-lapse video of what's happening. And I look forward to taking any questions that you might have of the system. Go ahead and feel welcome to contact me, mark@macroscopicsolutions.com, or just in the comment sections below. Or just make sure that you take advantage of the forum that's at macroscopicsolutions.com. Once again, I'm Mark Smith. Thank you very much for watching this video, and we'll see you at the next one.